I think the biggest fear, the stopping for most people is, where am I going?
Right.
And getting rid of 30 to 50 years of items, moving
Yeah.
out of your house after 30 to 50 years,
Yes.
it does get harder every year. It's very overwhelming.
Yes.
Just the thought of, where do I begin?
As a realtor,
Right?
we always tell people to own, and then now the suggestion is to rent. It's like, well, what?
Because you have to actually figure out, do I have enough money
Yeah.
to keep me for the rest of my life, right?
Totally.
Like,
Walking
if you're
alongside
starting
you.
to think about it, do it.
The Red Chair Podcast. Real truth behind real people in real estate.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Red Chair Podcast. I'm April. I'm your host for this next episode. We're so glad you've chosen to join us here, and we have another exciting new conversation for you today, and I have a new guest here on the Red Chair, and so let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about right-sizing, not just downsizing, but, sort of where you're at in the stage of your life. Maybe your kids have just left and you're empty nesters. Maybe you're, fully set into retirement and you're ready to actually do that downsize. But what does that look like? Maybe you're at a point where you want to upsize because your family, your kids are having kids and your family's growing. You've got more grandchildren. And so maybe you want to have like a legacy property or something like that. So the conversation today is around, what does that look like for you, your financial situation, and your future? And so with me here today on the Red Chair Podcast is Rosemarie Colterman. Rosemarie, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, thank you for asking me to come. And about me, I've been, this October, it will be 22 years that I've been a realtor in the Victoria board. And before in real estate, I did a few different things, but mainly counseling and nurturing for clients and raising children, of course.
Okay.
And
nice.
doing that. Yes. And so now in my 22nd year, the past 12 years, I formed a team, the Homeward Bound Real Estate team. And it's with my husband, Tom Oak. Mm-hmm. And our daughter, Nicolaya Oak, is our assistant.
Assistant extraordinaire.
Yes.
Yes.
And we actually, our other daughter is working for us this summer on some projects that we have going for the team. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So that background in counseling, I'm sure, comes in really handy with real estate too.
Well, actually, it does.
Yeah.
It does. Quite often, those skill sets are being used quite a bit because that is some of the main key ways of working with your client who need that support during, any transaction that you do in real estate. There's a lot of emotion.
Yes.
A lot of stress and anxiety, whether it's a positive move, everything. It brings out all of that, and so it is very helpful.
Yeah, so you become you're the realtor, but also a counselor and maybe, a financial planner and a lawyer and all of these things through the process.
Yeah.
So it's really, really a full-on experience being a realtor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then but we still have some free time, and in our free time, I love to be with our family, and we now have 2 grandchildren and 1 on the way. So we like to spend a lot of time with them. Yeah. And I'm a foodie, so I love, learning about foods and trying foods.
Yeah.
Playing games, having fun, camping. Yeah,
Great.
We do lots of things.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this is a great topic, I think, and one that I'm sure many people, especially here in Victoria, are considering. I know a lot of people kind of come out this way to retire because the climate is more appealing, and particular to the island, it's, sort of Canada's Hawaii, as they say. And so, talking about right sizing is important for people. So my first question to you would be, what are some of the main reasons that people start considering this more later in life?
Right. Some of the main reasons are it could be retirement, as you've mentioned, and it could be a death of a partner, and then that actually affects the space, the size you're looking at, but it also could affect your income. And it could be family. We've noticed some of our clients moving to be closer to their family, to let go of what they have in order to be closer to their family and grandchildren and just make it easier. And another one that's really important is aging and mobility, letting go of some things that you can no longer do or become more difficult. And I think the other part of resizing now, which we need to address, actually comes out of COVID, is more people working from home. And so not only looking at the older generations, but looking at how people are looking at housing differently and work differently than we ever used to.
Right.
So when you're looking at working from home, that now is a major consideration that wasn't there pre-COVID to the same degree.
Right. Right. So really, right sizing isn't just about, more senior couples or, those that are empty nesters. It really could be a lot of different things at a lot of different ages. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's great. So, along those same lines, then, what would be the difference in your mind to the words downsizing and right sizing?
Well, right sizing is looking at your change of lifestyle within your home and staying within your home, or changing your home, like to make it fit. For you, depending on what you're choosing to do, whether you're bringing more family in, whether you're working from home, all of those things changing it. And downsizing, I feel, is a little more economically affected, looking at letting go. So really letting go of many of your material items and going into a more compact way of living and going to a smaller space, perhaps.
Right. Sort of maybe with the idea of like, if I have a smaller space, it's less maintenance, I can
Correct.
travel,
Yep.
that sort of idea of downsizing is like, it's less expensive all the way around, right?
Correct.
Whereas right sizing doesn't necessarily mean
It can
it's
be
a
an
smaller
economic thing. Like
space.
I've had clients over the years actually sell their property and went to a smaller space so they had money to travel.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
It's always good to be able to travel.
And then with absolutely.
yeah.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
And then with traveling, because they want to travel, and I've had clients do that, then they don't need a large space.
Yeah.
So they just have a smaller space because they're gone half the year.
Yeah. So what would you say then are some of the sort of like the emotional roadblocks to these decisions?
I would say, and what we have been coming across with our clients is the older you get, the unfortunately, with aging comes the whole thing. Trust me, I know. Is a whole issue around energy. How much energy do you have in a day and your mobility? And what I've discovered with some of the clients is as they get older, the whole idea of organizing a home, organizing a move and getting rid of 30 to 50 years of items, moving out of your house after 30 to 50 years is very overwhelming.
Yes.
Just the thought of where do I begin?
Yeah.
I have a garage filled of 30 years of items. I have a room filled with 30, that kind of thing. And they're just trying to figure out, what do I take? What do I not take? And you have to ask yourself questions. And I see this a lot. because when I go into the homes, I see the years that they've spent in the homes, where they've gone through their painting phase, they've gone through their quilting phase,
Oh.
they've gone through their workshop phase, but now they're not able or are not doing that right now. They've made a lifestyle change and with aging.
Yes.
And so it's a question of, do I let go of all these things? What do I
Right.
take with me?
Yeah.
And it can be what we have experienced over the years of working with many clients is it does get harder every year.
Right.
So if you are wanting to make a decision and looking at that, really sooner is better. Because when you're still mobile and able to make those lifestyle decisions, it's just so much easier on you, on everyone involved.
Right. Yeah, and I would believe too that it would be sort of less expensive, because I do know that there are many companies out there that will help
Correct.
with, with removing those things. But when you're doing that under, maybe some duress or some stronger emotion, it's harder to let things go. They're taking things away at a cost, at a premium. And so, like you said, when you've got the mobility, when you have the ability to do it yourself, start soon. That's a great point.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you have children that are living close to you, that's really helpful too, to get them involved to help you.
Yeah. And they normally don't want to.
I know.
I've been through it with my own family where,
Yeah.
my in-laws actually were downsizing and moving on, and I ended up with 2 bins of china and
That's right.
things
That's
like
right.
that. But I mean, they're dear to my heart, but it can be hard for the children as well, who don't
That's
want to
right.
necessarily hurt mom and dad's feelings. And so they take things on. And so, having those conversations, I think, with your
That's right.
kids and stuff too, early is good. My own mother, many years ago, she said, put a green piece of painter's tape on the back of things that you
Right.
want.
Right.
And she would still have them around her home. But, if we forgot something, we could just flip it over and it would be, an A and that would be mine. And,
Right.
And so, even doing something simple like that early on
Yeah,
can
my
really
grandmother
be helpful.
did that.
Yeah.
We used to, when we used to go to her house, we'd all look for who's getting what. We always knew my brother got the little china dish that was in the middle.
Yes.
And the
yeah,
coffee table.
Yeah. It's a great idea. I mean, it saves you a lot of hassle down the road for sure. So just along those lines then, when you're having conversations with your clients, because I'm sure that you're keeping in touch with people on a regular
We are.
basis.
Yeah.
So some of those, how are you approaching that conversation?
Good question. It's hard because we just check in, see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Often it's a health thing, so just questioning and seeing about where they're at with their health and their mobility. And so when we get to the point, so we have a lot of conversation because primarily I really care about these people. We've developed relationships. So I often just we just have our own conversation about life, chit chat. And then when we get to the topic, it's really just checking in and reminding them, just seeing where they're at and how they're feeling, and then giving them some reminders
Yes.
of what could happen, and giving them the information of if they move now as opposed to moving later, if their mobility gets worse, it's going to be harder. How long can you stay with the stairs? We'll ask questions like that to get them thinking about what could work. And then we provide them with options. It's really important. So we work a lot with in town with a real estate option, actually, as opposed to, for example, a retirement home. This is sort of a property in between a condo and a retirement home, Rosebank Gardens, that offers, you buy your suite and you get your meal, you get 24-hour
Right.
service, you get your laundry, you get your housekeeping once a week, all of that. So we often talk about that and give that as a suggestion of an idea for them to look at. And many of them are quite interested, and we go see the complex, etc.
Yeah.
So we give them ideas of, the most important is to look at, where would you like to go?
Right.
And I think the biggest fear, the stopping for most people is, number one, as I said, the overwhelming of, just the actual move and
Right.
organizing. But part of that is, where am I going?
Right.
That's the biggest question.
Yes.
I've been in this home for 30 years, 50 years, whatever. Where do I want to go? And there is a lot of question and concern about moving to a strata when you've been in a single family dwelling for many years. But there's different options for sure. So we go through those options, alleviate some of their worry about it,
Right.
and give them some ideas of the opportunities. A lot of people don't even know about that particular opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right-sizing could be that sort of assisted living component, like you talked about. I think another one too, for maybe people that are not quite that far, that need that assisted living situation yet, maybe even just the option of, selling your place and going into a property with maybe one of your kids and having a suite in
That
their
for
house.
sure.
So you still sort of have that like assisted living type feel
sure.
because you've got a family member that's close, but you still independent. You still
Yeah.
have space
Yes.
within that home that
Yeah.
is yours. And so that's often, I think, a consideration too when you're considering right sizing. It's like, I
And
don't need the help just yet.
That's
but,
right.
And
And there's a lot of other options. So there's many of them move to a condo situation. So the condo situation is great, and many people who had original fears around it have come to embrace and enjoy being in the condo. So you have your condo situation, which is your strata, you've purchased it. But the other option that we have been seeing in the past few years quite a bit is people now removing, and part of it is actually shifting and going into a rental.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And that's a whole other mindset for people because
Correct.
they've owned for
'Cause they've owned.
and they own their property outright, and now the suggestion is to rent. It's like, well, what?
yeah, many people are starting. We're seeing it more and more within our client community, and I believe it's also letting go of that and liquidating their finances and putting their finances into something else for
Right.
now, so that they don't have that for the next part of their lives. They're thinking ahead, even in terms of further, some people would be, because it's just easier for estates, et cetera, if there is no property involved.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's one, but also it's just freeing, to free yourself. Some people find, ownership, they just want to let that go and have and rent the last part of their life.
That's a really interesting point, because I think, particularly of a certain era, you're just, your whole life ownership is key. You're building equity. As a realtor,
Right.
we always tell people to own. And
Yeah.
so the concept of, saying, okay, it's time to right size or downsize and take your equity, put it somewhere else now and rent might be a difficult conversation for people who think that it's important to own. So I love that you've brought that up because I think you're right. I think more people are doing it because
Yeah, it comes
just
from them.
different.
Like,
Yeah.
this is what they want to do.
Yeah.
And with some of our couples that we've had, I can think of 3 offhand right now who have all moved into brand new rental units.
nice.
And they're
Yeah.
quite lovely.
Yeah.
We've gone to visit them. They look beautiful. Yeah. So
So there's great options out there. So that's definitely something that you're going to talk to your clients about is, the option to rent as opposed to, buying something else.
because when you're looking when you're looking at this whole lifestyle change and resizing in terms of just refiguring your next step and why.
Yeah.
Why?
The why. Yeah.
Finances comes into it.
Yeah, that's my next point, actually.
Right.
It's like there's this whole thing too of like, if I'm going to buy something else, I have to take the money from what I'm selling
Correct.
to buy.
Correct.
Or, so obviously we're not mortgage brokers. We know some things about financing, but can we talk about that for a second? Just like, how do you have those conversations with your client about what does the financing part look like?
Yeah, we usually get right to it and ask them what situation they're in.
Yeah.
And ask them those private, confidential questions because we need to know where they're at and what kind of decision they're making and what they're able to do.
Right.
And so many of them in the past have, had a lot now because they've had these large single-family homes.
Yeah.
They're selling it. Their equity is in their home, so they usually are qualified for what you call in-term financing,
Okay.
as opposed to bridge financing. So in-term is before you sell your home.
Right.
And bridge is after you sell your home and it's firm, but you haven't closed. And it's just that bridging that time between the
Right.
closings.
Yeah.
But for in-term financing, we have had some clients do that, and that was their comfort level.
Right.
Because they needed to find what they were looking for specifically. Example, the Rosebank Gardens complex
Right.
I'm telling you about. And sometimes you couldn't get in there, but once you got in there, you want to go and get in there, set up. And what I found with the elders, it really works well for them to buy or move where they're going. So whether it's a rental or moving or purchasing, they move in, we set them all up, get all set up, and then we go back and prepare and list their property.
Okay.
And the cost for them is worth it.
Yes.
And so we just use it as part of your cost of selling
Right.
to do it this way because it's just so much easier on them. You can have open houses and showings and everything, and they don't even have to worry about it because they're no longer there.
Right. So the idea is get them across the finish line into the next place. So whether that
If they can do it.
Yeah. So whether that financing is interim or bridge or, whatever the option is there, get them across that line. And then, yeah, I agree. There's way less stress than
For
having
them.
to be underfoot and
Yeah,
getting out for
correct.
showings and
Because
all of that.
they have our clients have their routines.
Yes.
And I think the biggest thing with moving is, the disruption of a routine.
Yes.
So if we can try and, alleviate these pain points and make it as simple and stress-free as possible for the client, the better, because you want them to have this really easy flowing transition time. And what I've discovered is if they can financially do it,
Yes.
that is the way to go.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
It's the way to go. Not everyone can financially do it, so
Yeah.
then we look at different options, different ways of doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. So we've talked about financing. We've talked about different types of right sizing. Let's talk about planning this transition. We talked in the beginning about starting early to make sure that, mobility isn't an issue, to make sure financing is in order. But what steps could someone take, today if they've clicked onto this podcast and they've said, this is for me because we've been having conversations around the table. We're in this great big house. We can't find each other anymore. Like you've got your own separate rooms. It kind of is nice, I think, in some ways. It's like the kids are gone. We've got all this space, but also we have to mow this massive lawn.
That's right.
And, the roof is getting
That's
old
right.
and I don't want to replace it again. So as you're having those conversations, what steps could they take, sort of today to sort of like get things moving in the right direction over the next 6 to 12 months?
I think the first thing is to go through your home and see what you are actually no longer really using in terms of your daily activity or your life.
Right.
And see if you can let go and pack that up, and the key to first making that list and doing that, and just do a little at a time, whatever easy. You can do it yourself, or you can hire someone to come in and help you.
Yeah.
Either way, there's a lot of resources out there that can do that. But just beginning. And we actually have some clients doing that right now. Yeah. So we have a client we've met with them. Last week we had a Zoom meeting. They're up island and they're looking at preparing their home and they're looking at next spring. Okay. So from now till then, they're looking at what they need to do to make that move.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
That's so good.
We actually, I would say, we often have meetings or phone call meetings, either Zoom meetings, phone call meetings, or in-person meetings with many of our clients about a year before they move.
Wow.
In preparing.
Yeah.
A year to 6 months.
Yeah.
It could be 6 months before they move or whatever, where they'd first start to think about it.
Right.
This is what we're thinking about doing.
I think that's so great. And I think, having an advisor like yourself come alongside and, start to make those suggestions. Because I think, like we said right in the beginning, it is very overwhelming. And, to have someone come alongside and say, I got you. We're going to help you get through this. What a gift to give to somebody who, like, otherwise just feels this is impossible. So that's really great. I think that's going to be very valuable for a lot of people. It's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
And I actually, just going back to the finance, because I just thought of something, we actually contacted an accountant to draw up a spreadsheet so that someone can look at their finances to see how much they need to spend a month. So how much is the house worth and how much money will they need per month from now until they pass away, so that they know whether they can. And I've had clients where I've worked with that too, because you have to actually figure out, do I have enough money to keep me for the rest of my life? Right?
Totally. Yeah. No, that is so important. And I think too, that's going to help factor what it is you choose to do, whether you buy something else or you rent, because if travel is a big component for you, like, again, if you're in that stage of life where you still feel mobile and you want to go and travel and you want to go to other countries that you've never been before, what is your price point then to do that and be able to have some travel each year too? So that checklist would be fabulous too.
I had someone move into a small 1-bedroom so they could travel.
Right.
That was their decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I think that would be my decision. I'd
be
like,
I know, right? And it was a cute little 1-bedroom downtown condo.
Yeah.
And then he traveled
What's interesting too, when you said that, like, one of the things that I sometimes get caught up with is, but what about, and maybe other people feel this way too, what about the kids? Like, what if they come to visit and they live somewhere else? I need to have that second bedroom so that they've got a place to come, or, and I think you can get hung up on the decisions you make because you don't want to, like, upset your kids or put them out or whatever.
That's right.
And I think the answer to that question is, who cares about your kids at this point?
Really,
right?
You need to do. It's true, and we often, especially that generation, really takes care of their kids. But it is important to look after yourself.
Yeah,
but
and not in every case. I mean, like, some families are very tight, and that would not be an option for them. But I feel like we should just sort of release people as well and say, you know what, it's okay. You can buy that 1-bedroom, and don't feel guilty about it. You've been there for your kids their whole life. Enjoy your life now, right?
Right. Yeah. And the other point to look into, especially, again, at some of the places I've mentioned, and some of those buildings is they have guest suites.
Right, of course.
So you can book the guest suite for your
Yes.
family to come,
Perfect.
right?
Perfect. That's amazing. That's good. That's so good. Okay, so we've got quick fire questions for you. Okay,
Okay.
so like kind of like the first thing that comes to your mind.
All right, I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. So, one sign that it might be time to right size.
You're having difficulty walking up those stairs and walking down those stairs.
Yeah, that's a good one. Or you're pushing that mower and you're like, I don't want to do this
Correct.
anymore. Yeah.
The landscaping starts to go.
Yes, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what's one financial factor people often overlook when making this move?
Financial factor. Well, I think they're looking at their pensions and everything. I think it is important if you do go into a strata to remember strata fees
Yes.
and extra costs like
Yes.
that. And just remembering the extra costs of moving.
Yeah.
And I would say, people are looking at their utilities. Location is important because the other factor is in your resizing, you're also resizing location. You're also re-looking at location and looking at ones where you have options for bus routes
Right.
and different things and walkability.
Yeah.
And that's really important. But so could be extra costs for possibly there, but you may be letting go of your car at some point. But what I've noticed is with our taking care of ourselves, our people are living longer.
Yes.
And they're driving longer.
Yes.
So there are more costs. And one of the costs is parking.
Right.
Because some of the places that used to have enough parking spots don't anymore because more and more people still have their car.
Right.
And you may have to look at extra parking costs.
Right.
So those are kind of like little hidden costs you hadn't thought about.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's a very good point. And also, too, a funny story. Just I'm thinking about this. I had a client once who downsized, and she was still driving. And the condo that she lived in had a very tight way to get in and out of the parking garage.
Ouch.
And as she got more elderly and less able to see, she kept hitting the wall more frequently with her
ouch,
car.
ouch, ouch,
So,
ouch.
think about things like that, like the ability to live there comfortably without having to worry about,
That's
these
right.
types of things. Like if this
Yeah.
is sort of like your final destination, then you want it to be everything that's going to make you comfortable, right? So
Yeah.
that's good. Okay, I always think about a funny question. This one is, it's, you may not be able to think of a word, but let me know what you think about this. If right sizing were a journey, what would it be called?
Oh my gosh, if right size were a journey,
I've got her stumped.
you do have me stumped.
Okay, I'm going to pick
long
one.
way
that
home?
that just came to my mind. I'm thinking of like the old kids game, Chutes and Ladders or Snakes and Ladders.
You know what? That's a good one.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh,
that one
because you
just
may
came to
be
my mind.
able to find a way that you get up there quickly,
Yeah.
or you may have to climb.
Yeah. So that's mine.
Oh my God, that's so true.
Well, yeah, I kind of think so. Or, maybe like
mousetrap.
Candyland or something like that. It's funny. I think that's great. So kind of as we kind of wrap it up here, I think these are some great tips that we've come up with here in terms of right sizing. What would your sort of, if, sorry, I'm kind of like rambling here, so we'll just cut this part out. I'm trying to think of like the last thing to say. So we've talked about, this transition. It can be difficult. It can be emotional. But at the end of the day, it can be something really special and really kind of, you could celebrate, that
That's right.
you're kind of moving on to this next stage. So final thoughts from you on right sizing, and what would you say to someone, again, who's sort of like in that place?
I would really encourage the person, I would say to them, I'd love to come and talk with you because really the sooner the better.
Yeah.
I really encourage people, the sooner you make that transition before it physically becomes too difficult.
Yes.
I think that is the key.
Right.
Honest to God, it's the key for a better process, less stressful process.
And you might still be a year or so out.
That's right.
But even just getting the ball rolling,
Yeah.
and having someone
Like
walking
if you're
alongside
starting
you.
to think about it, do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. If you're
Right?
starting to think about it,
Do it. And there are many of your family members that will come and support you.
Yeah.
So if you have family nearby, and also I've had many people who family live across the country, but they'll come for a week or two
Yes.
and help. They'll still connect with me, and they're across the country. Like, you can get the support you need.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah.
Rosemarie, thank you so much for joining us today to talk about resizing. I think this has been really valuable. If you are considering right-sizing, downsizing, whatever that looks like for you, I think the key takeaway here today is to start now. And why not start with someone like Rosemarie and her team who can help you through that process, and also, just help you to figure out if it's time now or time a year from now.
That's right.
So reach out to Rosemarie. Her information will be found on this podcast as well. Thank you again. And we look forward to seeing you here again on the Red Chair podcast for future episodes. Thanks for joining in. Be sure to hit subscribe, and we will see you again. Bye.
Bye.